The road. When you were in the trunk, what did the road sound like?
Oh, I don't... Highway, a regular highway.
Well, did you go over any speed bumps? Gravel? How about a bridge?
Bridge. Yeah.
4 bridges in the Bay Area.
Was the Golden Gate fogged in last night?
Yes.
Did you hear a foghorn?
No?
Scratch the Golden Gate. That leaves 3.
What did it sound like? Did you go through a tunnel in the middle?
I'm not... No.
Scratch the Bay.
Well, that leaves 2.
San Mateo and Dunbarton.
What did it sound like?
Lower. Lower. There was a recurring sound.
Like seams in the concrete.
But further apart. Yeah.
Now what?
Bumps. Rough ones.
Railroad tracks.
Yeah. A right on Antrim and a left on 84.
And then what did you hear?
Cocktail party.
What?
Drove through what sounded like a cocktail party. It was chattering. It was right at the end.
Great. Now we gotta look for a cocktail party on the other side of the railroad track.
Wait, Carl. What's the exit where the railroad tracks are?
Crescent.
Mother, stay on Crescent. Get off at the reservoir.
Okay.
There's a cocktail party at the reservoir.
Yeah. Very good, Bish. Remind me to make you an honorary blind person.
It's Two Dads, One Movie. It's the podcast where 2 middle-aged dads sit around and shoot the shit about the movies of the 80s and 90s. Here are your hosts, Steve Paulo and Nick Brianna. Welcome to another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And today we are talking about the 1992, crime, mystery. What would you categorize it as?
I don't know. It's just it's one of those things where you're trying to describe it and you're making hand gestures
Right.
and then you just go, it's just good.
It's Sneakers.
Yeah.
It's Sneakers. It's so good. And Nick, this was your pick. And so why don't you start us off with just, why'd you pick it and why did we watch it? Why are we going to talk about it today?
Yeah. So this one is like a little bit of a change of pace of our last two, which have been kind of heavy on the action, which we love, but we're trying to mix it up. We're trying to touch all types of fans here at Two Dads, One Movie.
Absolutely.
This is one I do remember watching when it came out on video. It was a movie night with my parents. And as I've talked about before, we didn't watch a ton of movies together. So the certain ones we did watch together really stuck with me, especially if I remember, asking my dad a bunch of questions during the movie and stuff. And this one had so many little references to things that have stuck with me forever, just because I remember I was at that perfect age to ask dad questions and he was answering. The cast is incredible. This hits so many actors that we haven't seen yet.
Right.
And, some that we have, but it is really a remarkable cast looking back that at the time they basically had kind of 2 living legends with Poitier and Redford.
Right.
Right. And then you had in the moment star, Aykroyd was a top 10 comedy star of the time and everything. So really loaded cast. I watched this again, maybe a few years ago, but this is kind of one in our age group. A lot of times you'll mention to people and then people get excited about it because it is just a fun movie and it has the spy element to it and gadgets and like a team working together and guys busting each other's balls and everything. So I think a lot of it just makes it so enjoyable. So I'm really happy to be talking about this today.
Yeah. And I think for us in particular, it being set in the Bay Area, and I know you didn't spend your whole childhood here, but you know, we both grew up most of our lives, at least in the Bay Area. And so there are a lot of little things that, you know, you recognize just being a Bay Area person. And it's actually funny. It really screws up one part of it, knowing the geography of the Bay Area, because there is a drive they make that's completely impossible at one point, which we can discuss about later. But yeah, so two things that I want to mention. One, when we first launched this podcast, I started telling friends of mine, hey, I'm starting this podcast with my buddy Nick, and we're going to do movies of the 80s and 90s. Two separate people who do not know each other, have never spoken to each other. Both, their first comment to me was, when are you going to do Sneakers? Yeah. Like, it literally is the kind of movie that people just immediately think of when they think of whether the early 90s or the 90s in general. Incredible, you know. And then the cast, I want to call it out. We mentioned it last episode when we first introduced it. We're going to do this movie, but it bears repeating in this episode. This cast has 8 people in it with Oscar pedigree. And by that, I mean they have won or been nominated for competitive Oscars. One of them has a Lifetime Achievement Award. So real quick, Robert Redford, Oscar winner. Sidney Poitier, Oscar winner. Ben Kingsley, Oscar winner. James Earl Jones, surprisingly to me, never won a competitive Oscar, but does have an honorary Lifetime Achievement Oscar. And 4 other members of the cast were nominated, though have not won Oscars. And that would be Dan Aykroyd, River Phoenix, Mary McDonnell, and David Strathairn. So ridiculous cast.
Crazy.
Basically everybody from top to bottom in the main cast, the main hero, the main villain, all the significant supporting staff. And then James Earl Jones is in it, his voice for 10 to 15 seconds one place, and then he's in 2 minutes worth of a scene at the end, but he too, you know, raises the bar of this cast. So totally amazing group of people to get together into what was kind of like, you know, this wasn't like a biopic of a really famous person. This wasn't like a huge budget movie with like, it felt like kind of a little movie in some ways, except this ridiculous cast coming together. Yeah,
it is crazy. I mean, because it's not, it's weird today to look back and say, oh, this movie wasn't based on existing IP. No, it's crazy. Someone thought of an idea and they made a movie about it.
All right.
But yeah, one other thing I wanted to say, when I selected this movie, when we were talking to each other last time, I saw the look come across your face of, damn it, this was my movie for this time.
It was.
So that's how much we all love Sneakers, is that Steve and I were going to simultaneously pick it.
It's absolutely true.
Here we go. All right, what facts we got, Steve?
We're going to dive into the facts on Sneakers. It was released on September 9th, 1992 with a PG-13 rating, running time of 126 minutes, directed by Phil Alden Robinson, written by Phil Alden Robinson and Lawrence Lasker and Walter F. Parks. The starring, look, we just mentioned the cast. Officially, I wrote on our sheet that it stars Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd, and Ben Kingsley, but you know, the cast is so amazing. Scores, incredibly respectable scores, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a certified fresh, a 7.1 out of IMDb. I think that might even be a little on the low side, whatever. No significant awards. Couple of nominations, nothing, did not win any awards. Was made on a budget of $23 million, which, you know, when you think about the technology that they sort of had to invent and make props of and create and kind of, which none of it was real, so much of it was absolutely fake, but it must have taken a lot of like money to do those effects and things. So reasonably good budget, plus I have no idea what the cast earned, but it must not have been nothing. To then take $105 million at the box office. That's 4.6 times its budget, which is a certifiable hit, at least according to the Two Dads One Movie scale.
Absolutely.
So those are the facts about Sneakers. Let's kick it off. Nick, do you want us to get us started?
Yeah. So right off the bat in this movie, we're being given the opening credits.
Right.
And what we're being shown is just collections of words, which we realize are anagrams for each of the names, which is such a clever way to kind of weave the theme of this the cryptography theme of this entire movie right from the beginning. And also, it did make me think of how much The Simpsons is stuck in my mind forever. So every time I see an anagram of an actor's name, I always think Jeremy's Iron.
Right. The most creative of all anagrams, right?
But it's a great little intro that at least shows you like something's up. Like this is not a straight down the middle. And then we're shown a flashback to 1969. This is where the action opens, and it's a young Marty and Cause who are in some kind of a administrative building, and
Yeah.
they've hacked into the bank accounts,
Right.
and they're talking about having the Republican Party
Yeah.
make a donation to the Black Panthers and
Right.
stuff like that. So they're doing some good Robin Hood style mischief.
Yeah, it's not made super clear to us, but given the snow on the ground and, where in the country the proper technology would have existed that two young guys would have access to it, I have a feeling they're at MIT. That's my guess. Seems kind of like it would fit that these are a couple of MIT nerds in the late 60s. But yeah, they are also talking about, Richard Nixon's personal account being accessible to them. And, oh boy, I bet Greenpeace, I think it was just going to need all of his money.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so then Marty decides he's hungry, asks Cosmo, hey man, you hungry, you want some food? And they do this thing that'll come back later in the movie too, where Cosmo, shows him a coin, like a quarter or something, or silver dollar, and then kind of hides it with like a very sleight of hand kind of move in one of his two fists. And Marty has to pick.
Yes.
And he picks, and that hand is empty. And so he has to go get the food. But then of course, Cosmo kind of shows us the other hand is also empty. So it's very important, I think, to just recognize that, Cosmo tricked Marty into being the one to leave.
Yeah.
Because what happens next? We see lights, flashing lights.
Cop car
bad
shows
ideas,
up.
red and blues.
And Marty is in the van, which is kind of like the windows are snowed in.
Yeah.
So luckily they don't really see him.
Right.
So he's able to observe all this from a distance as he sees the cops roll into the building, definitely to come after his friend Cos. I do want to say real quick on the casting.
Yeah.
We had the need for a young Ben Kingsley
Right.
and a young Robert Redford.
Right.
And the casting agent did an amazing job of giving us a young Ben Kingsley and a young Nick Nolte.
I thought
they knocked it out of the park.
I was like, this guy does not look anything like Robert Redford, but you're right. He looked significantly like, about a 25-year-old Nick Nolte. That's crazy. Maybe even slightly Gary Busey-ish.
Oh, he was in the
bit.
Busey
He was in that ballpark.
genus. Yeah.
But the guy they got to play the young Ben Kingsley,
Really?
really good, and clearly worked with, I'll have to call him Sir Ben Kingsley because he is, of course, knighted. But that actor obviously worked with Kingsley on their cadence and the way that the accent that he has, that he sort of uses later in the film, because they really sound exactly the same.
They did, yeah.
And so kudos to the young actor, I don't know his name at this point, who played the young Cosmo. He clearly did his homework and did a fantastic job. And of course is then being surrounded. He's looking out the window down at Marty as the cops are rolling in, and kind of even kicks the window out and is yelling at Marty, whatever. And part of me is kind of like, yeah, you didn't think you'd get busted. Marty told you wouldn't get busted, but also you're literally stealing money from rich, powerful people. Like,
sure,
there should have been some understanding that this was a dangerous game you're playing.
That's the mentality, though, of like a privileged 20-year-old at that time. They're
true.
like, well, nothing's actually going to happen.
Right. But then, the fact that Cos tricked Marty into being the one to leave, I think really, he needs to take some responsibility for that, for being in that situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think, there was comeuppance to be had, and he was just the one holding the bag at the end there. And that's where we're left in the past. So basically we have a flashback of that happening, and now we're in the present day.
I want to real quick, the transition between the two, I think is really great because it goes from the snow falling at, let's say MIT, whatever, the college that they're at, to snow on a screen. And the transition from snow to snow is super, super clean and very fun because we're then inside the surveillance van that Martin and his friends are now running their business out of.
And we get a good view of all the members of the crew.
Right.
A highlight for me is it shows Whistler, the blind character, who's reading a Braille magazine, and then the covers turn to show us that it's a Playboy magazine, which is just classic. Another Playboy appearance, in a movie. I think it was around definitely during this time period. So I don't know. Should we go down who the crew is here?
Yeah, we can do that.
Help.
We can go ahead and do that. Yeah. So you mentioned Whistler, played by David Strathairn, blind, obviously, an audio specialist, like clearly has tons of gadgets and skills with detecting audio and listening for things, etc. I do wonder a little bit about the Braille Playboy. Was that descriptions of the women in Braille, or was there like a drawing in the dots of what the woman looked like? I don't know.
Or was it just like an interview with like Tom Selleck or something?
There you go, exactly. But yeah, go ahead. Who else do you want to intro?
Okay. So we got Whistler, we got Mother, played by Dan Aykroyd, and he's seems to be like maybe the most technically apt person figuring out the computer stuff, and he's also like a wild conspiracy theorist.
Really?
So every scene it's showing him, and he's just it's really it really captures that like archetype very well of the person who's just boring the shit out of everybody, where they're just like, could you shut the fuck up? Like, when are you gonna stop? But he's a really fun character.
Absolutely. He's like in a he's like underground underneath the bank that they're trying to break into a bank. We learned because they've been hired to break into it to deal with it. But he's sort of like underground nearby, checking the different telephone lines and things for the alarm. He's trying to figure out which alarm needs to be cut, kind of thing. But he's on the radio with I'll introduce the next person. So Sidney Poitier's character Crease, who is a former CIA. We don't know why he had to leave the CIA. That sort of gets bandied about a bit early on. But former CIA agent, spent years in the agency, and obviously is sort of there. He's like the adult in the room, even though several of the characters are about his age. Even Martin acts more childishly than Crease does. But he is the one that is talking to Mother on the walkie-talkies, and Mother's like, they go, well, he so and so like left the embassy like moments before or whatever. Crease, were you still in the CIA then? He goes, yeah. He's like, what about that? He's like, are you saying the CIA caused the earthquake in Somalia? And Mother just goes, well, I can't prove it. So he's like so like proto QAnon. It's like terrifying. Yeah,
it's really good. So we got Crease, then we have Carl, played by the young River Phoenix. And he seems just kind of like he's like a utility infielder for the crew, I guess.
I think he seems really good because there's a lot of social engineering stuff that happens as well, where it's not just about their interaction with systems and with networks and whatever, but they have to like deal with people, like there's definitely a scene later where Carl really sort of springs to life as this very distracting delivery boy that's there to like, give cover for Martin to do something he needs to do. And I feel like Carl, has a little bit of if you think of the A-Team, Carl is sort of face. Mother is Murdoch, Carl is face. I don't think there is a BA, but I guess maybe, like nobody's buff enough to be BA, but that's okay. But I think he's sort of the social engineer. He's there, and then obviously also he's small and he's athletic and he's young and doesn't have a bad back. So when somebody needs to go into like tiny spaces, he's
the crawl space guy.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And then the last one, I guess, is just Marty Bishop, our main guy, Bob Redford.
Right.
And and he's kind of the brains, I guess, the more experienced one behind the organization, the one who put it all together.
Yeah, he's the ringleader.
It's, Martin Bishop and Associates is his company that breaks into banks to show you how easy it is to break into your bank, which... God, I love that idea.
That's definitely a thing I've seen. I think there's like entire TV shows sort of based around, the concept of being, whether you want to call them white hats or tiger team or whatever, a group being brought into, I think in the software world, we call it pen testing or penetration testing. Like, where are the holes? Help us find them so that we can fix them before a bad person finds them. I mean, it really does make a lot of sense. And it is a cool kind of job for them to have. It's a cool business to run.
Definitely. So as we're introduced to the crew, so we kind of skipped around just talking about the people, but I think that's important to kind of lay out who the crew is.
Yeah.
So as Steve said, they're trying to get access to this bank to kind of do their security testing. One of my favorite scenes early on. So as we're shown River Phoenix, who's getting ready to kind of go undercover, and he's putting all this black makeup on his face, and Sidney Poitier's character walks up to him and just gives him a look like blackface, really? Like the funniest look. And I love that the Sidney Poitier is just by far like the only classy, dignified person in this crew, right? So his reactions to everything are really great. So I enjoyed that as kind of a humorous intro without saying too much of just like, okay, this is how this crew works together.
Again, he's the adult in the room and the only one.
For sure.
Yeah. So they basically, they're able to get the alarm cut. They're able to like break in. River Phoenix, with the agility of a cat, definitely jumps over a counter that Robert Redford then tries to and sort of tumbles across and literally says to Sidney Poitier, well, we're getting too old for this shit. Like very Lethal Weapon reference, I think, quite deliberately. But they're able to get the alarm shut off. Then a fire alarm gets pulled so that they have time to sort of like react and get inside. And when they turn that off, they've done the classic stuff. They've like hijacked the phone line. So when the security guard tries to call, his supervisor, he actually gets Whistler over in the van and he's able to talk him down. So they're able to do it. And then now all of a sudden, there's no alarm going. The security guard has no idea what's going on, can go back to watching his sitcom or whatever the heck he was watching on that little tiny TV. And they're able, basically now they've got complete access to the, terminals at the bank. So like whatever. So they withdraw $100,000 or they move $100,000 into Martin's account.
Right.
And the next thing we see is him withdrawing that money, like the next day, ostensibly, withdrawing that money into a briefcase and heading right upstairs to tell everybody, well, this is what happens. I was able to take $100,000, like your security guards need better training. Your phone lines are vulnerable, all this kind of stuff. But yeah. And then he's like, of course, so here's your money. Where's my check?
Yeah.
And it is kind of an interesting thing when you're working in a a position like this where you are ostensibly, you have the skill set of thieves,
Right.
right? And you could be criminals and steal money from people. What does it pay to be good? Because we're told not exactly how much they're paid, but we are told by the cashier writing him out a check that it's not a very good
it doesn't
living.
pay much. I know. And that's a good setup though, is that he's just too determined to be a good guy, to his own detriment, that he's kind of living. I don't know. I mean, I will call bullshit on the your ridiculous loft in San Francisco.
Oh my God.
Oh, what a destitute
Can
lifestyle.
we talk
You have
about
this
that?
loft full of gadgets here. Yeah, let's talk about
the loft
for a minute.
So immediately after he leaves the bank, right, we're in the loft. It's clearly I have a feeling it's where Martin lives. We don't get any other indication that he has another home. So it's probably his home as well. But it's the office for the crew, for Martin Bishop and Associates. It has whatever. And I'll tell you, like, I don't know, Nick, how experienced you are with this, but I have worked in probably 7 or 8 different startups in San Francisco over my career, and all of them had offices that basically looked like this.
Yeah.
But of course, they were burning venture capital cash
Right.
at ridiculous rates to like put all the glass boxes and all of the fancy equipment and all of the like foosball tables and shit where they go. So looking at this, I was like, well, that office, if it exists, I'm not saying it does exist anywhere in SF. It was probably on a studio set, but that office would be a startup office now.
Oh, for sure.
That's exactly what it would be. They even had the sort of box that is a conference room where it's like, it's not as high as the ceiling because the ceiling's too high. It's like 30-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
So this
the
little
enclosed conference terrarium.
Room. So classic startup office in SF.
Oh man. I wanted Martin Bishop to be hoverboarding around that place to tell everyone to work harder. That was, it's pretty incredible. And they never really get into the finances of it. And I know San Francisco wasn't as expensive as it was during times of our life, but come on, man.
Yeah,
lofts are way too easy to come by in fiction.
Yeah, I wonder what the Pacific Heights folks try to sell that place for. Right?
Okay, so we do this deal, and they have a couple visitors at the office who seem important, guys in suits, and Marty takes them into the conference room, and basically after prodding them a little bit, they reveal to him, or they tell him that they're with the NSA. Right. And they want to hire him because there's this mathematician named Janik, Gunther Janik, and he's developed some kind of code breaking piece of technology potentially that could be extremely damaging to the U.S. if in the wrong hands, or extremely helpful to the U.S. if in their hands. And he wants Marty and the crew to try to get it because it needs to be kind of done outside of the law. Oh, we can't use the cops. We can't use the FBI for this because this has to be a kind of illegal activity.
Yeah. There's one thing that it gets mentioned so Carl is the one that sort of reports to Marty like, hey, we got visitors. And Marty asks him, shoes? And he says they look expensive. And I want to call this out for a moment because in every other like movie or TV show where they reference government agents and the clothes they wear, it's always cheap looking shoes, ill-fitting suits, right? Like they were working on a government salary. Point. So the idea, and this, we'll realize later, Marty should have maybe been a little more careful. The idea that they're showing up in as an example, expensive Italian loafers or something like that, maybe they're not government spooks, like, what I mean? And I don't want to give away too much as we go through the plot, but I thought it was interesting that they specifically called out really nice shoes, just because it's like, I'm so used to the reference to government people.
Yeah, they always say they
shoes.
Look like shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Like, and it's always the guy who's moved from the government work into private sector that's getting paid a shit ton of money, working for a, quasi-moral, unethical entity that has the great clothes, right?
Right.
An interesting little thing. Oh, so Marty is talking to these guys, and he makes a line. I love this line he says, where he goes, "Yeah, I could have joined the NSA, but they found out both my parents were married." Yeah,
and then the other guys started coming after him immediately. Yeah, he's really poking at these guys.
Yeah, he's clearly still a very he's still that kid from '69.
Sure,
very counterculture, very anti-government, anti-establishment. A hippie, but a nerd hippie, I guess. Really is sort of Marty's vibe. Sure.
Yeah. And to his credit, the government didn't really do anything to become more trustworthy from 1969 on. So
that is absolutely true.
So they end up kind of working out a deal, which is like kind of a, hey, here's a great deal. Also, we can threaten you with this.
Yeah.
Also, we can threaten you with this.
Yeah,
So
they kind of came with both the carrot and the stick.
Yeah, like at the same time.
Right.
It wasn't even like a good, it was a good cop, bad cop. It was like all the
Good, bad cop.
So they offer him 175 grand. And then they're going to expunge his record because they have information that Martin Bishop is, had an alias or is an alias of a guy named Martin Bryce, who there's kind of no record of.
Right.
And
well, no, there's no record of Martin Bishop.
Right.
So Martin Bishop is an empty file, and then they leave a thing. They basically leave the wanted sheet that basically there's still an outstanding warrant. He's still wanted, whatever, 20 something years later. But for Martin Bryce, so that tells us, okay, so when after the thing that happened that we saw in '69, Martin changed his name, went on the lam, whatever, and has not resurfaced as Martin Bryce.
Right.
Since, basically.
What do you think of the OPSEC of changing your name but leaving your first name the same?
I think that is good OPSEC.
That's a good move because then you're not going to respond to a name that's not yours.
You're less likely to respond to the wrong name. Anyone who does know you, who's in on your, background, doesn't end up forget. If you've got anyone you keep from your previous life to your new life, they're less likely to screw up and call you the wrong name. Yeah, I think actually keeping your first name the same. I think possibly even keeping the last initial or the first initial of the last name makes sense. Just because it's like you're just trying not to show up on the same records. And Bryce and Bishop aren't the same name, so that's not going to come off as, oh, it's like I went from Smith to Smythe. Like that's not, it's not that level of similarity. And I think keeping the first name actually is definitely the right call.
Okay, I was thinking that there's arguments for and against, but I know that a lot of thought went into this whole thing, so I'll accept that. So they offer him 175 grand. We will clean up your record, and also we will not kill you.
Yeah, right.
So all the three best things.
They're really just going at it.
And Bishop, he needs to start getting close to this mathematician. He has to find out what's up with him, and he goes to visit his ex, Liz, who we're introduced to for the first time here.
Yeah, right before that, I just want to mention too, he mentions Janik is going to be talking and he says, I'm going to go to UC to hear him talk. And I just want to point, this is one of those Bay Area things. Nobody calls that college UC. Not a single person. You either call it Cal, or you call it Berkeley, or you call it UC Berkeley. But nobody just calls it UC. There are too many University of California campuses for there to be a UC. Just nobody says that. So it's another interesting thing that if they actually had a screenwriter or somebody on the staff who was from the Bay Area, they could have corrected that. All you had to do was say Cal.
Yeah, that is,
or even just UC Berkeley. But no one has ever said that. So I'm gonna go to UC. No. So so he needs to. He basically needs a date because he has a friend who we learned they are ex. They used to be together and they're not anymore. And she's quite clear about not letting that happen again.
Sure.
But she's clearly sort of a mathematical and musically inclined person. She's teaching music, but obviously music and math are super, super hand in hand. They're very, very similar in a lot of ways. There's a lot of math in music. The more and more you learn about music, obviously. And so he needs her to come so that he says so that she can help explain things to him.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just a front or if he really does need help or what, but
it's a good line.
It's a good line.
Yeah, it works well.
And it introduces us to Mary McDonnell's character,
yes.
Liz, who is fantastic. She's snarky, she's intelligent, she's gorgeous. And the chemistry between these two is awesome.
It's really good.
Every time McDonnell and Redford are on screen together, they are flirty and fun, but also there are boundaries she's not, going to get away from. They're a lot of fun to watch. I really believed that these were people who, were once together, still have very, very, a lot of affection for each other. But it didn't work out for a reason kind of thing.
Yeah,
it was very convincing. And I think, just testament to both actors in this case. But
they're great together. And when we first see Liz, we're kind of shown her from maybe from the chest up, and she's sitting at a piano and someone's absolutely banging away at the piano. Yeah. And then he comes around and sees that it's like a 7-year-old kid who she was giving lessons to, which is even more impressive.
Yeah. Very impressive.
So they're going to go watch this mathematician speak, Gunther Janik. And I just want to talk about him for a minute.
Okay.
So Gunther Janik, played by the great Donald Logue.
Love Donald Logue.
Again, this, the top build cast in this movie is incredible. But as we get down to the little character parts and stuff, they're all bangers.
Yeah.
And Donald Logue, it's a small part, but just the fact that you picked this guy at a very young point of his career to do this role where he has an accent and whatever, looking fresh as hell in a white long hair, and he's got a white suit with a white turtleneck. It's like the outfit that MacGruber wears to Dieter von Kunst's party in MacGruber. All he was missing was the car stereo. So I love this look, dude. It looks so good.
Yeah.
So Donald Logue, man, great to
stuff.
see him.
This was before Grounded for Life, before Treme, before like anything. I mean, he has had such a great career since this movie. But yeah, it was like when it popped up, I'd remembered some of the other, we'll get later in some of the other sort of bit parts. I'd forgotten Donald Logue was in this. So when he popped up on my screen, I was like, oh, it's Donald Logue. How cool is that?
What a treat. So they're trying to surveil this guy. Now they know what room he's in, and they're across from his room looking through the window, and he's typing in his passcode and stuff. And then he's interrupted by this woman. And this is a woman who he works together with. Obviously, they're interested in each other, so they start like making out. There's a very funny scene with the various members of the crew, like, "Oh, it's my turn at the camera. Like, I want to look, I want to look, I want to look." So that was cool, but they're hooking up. It's getting in the way of seeing the keyboard.
Right. So we start off, and I think it's Carl's got the camera first before Dr. Rishkoff, that's the woman, comes in. And so he starts this by describing, like, okay, there's an answering machine here. There's a phone there. There's the computer there. There's like a workbench full of, this and that, like whatever. And so he kind of like says things out loud about like, what is he looking for? Or excuse me, what is he seeing? Then it's like, oh, good, we got a chance to catch his he'll type us in. But of course, when she comes in and starts flirting with him and like wanting whatever, he's gonna log into his computer still because he's such a doctor nerd, I guess, whatever. He's like not paying attention to the beautiful Russian woman in his office. But she like blocks the way. So now she's like standing next to him and they can't, they're not gonna be able to see it. But they are recording still, for a while. When they get back to the loft to review the footage, they realize, nope, they didn't get a good shot of the password. But they keep replaying the same, clip over and over again, which includes the woman saying, I called you on your service and left a message. I called you on your service and left a message. And that repeats, I swear to God, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. It was a lot of times, whatever. So finally...
It was like a Daft Punk song.
Right. So finally Whistler pipes up and goes, the box, because they're looking for this box, that's the device they need to steal. The box is on the desk in between the phone and the lamp. And I love this because Mother looks over and goes, Whistler, I hate to tell you this, but you're blind. But of course he tells him, use your ears, right? And when they realize that she says, I called you on your service, left a message. Oh, what does he need an answering machine for? He doesn't. So that box must be the thing they're looking for.
And I just, for the sake of our podcast and the era that we target, the fact that like the item is a answering machine makes me so goddamn happy.
So perfect.
It makes me so happy.
A thing that has not existed in ages and never will again. Now that we all have cell phones and voicemail and stuff. Yeah.
So now they know where the black box is. They know where it's on his desk and it's in this answering machine. So, okay, let's just go in there.
Yep.
And there's a scene that you had made reference to earlier where they're trying to get in past the security. And I think it's just like, one of those nicer residences that has like the front desk security and everything. And River Phoenix is the delivery guy, and he's really good at causing a scene and distracting and keeping the attention on him.
Yeah.
And then Robert Redford is trying to say, like, come on, let me in. Okay, what's going on here?
He does a great thing. So Robert Redford shows up while the front desk guy is clearly just like distracted by Carl and talking to Carl about this delivery that he doesn't have on his, sort of delivery sheet, but Carl insists, no, I'm supposed to bring it here. And so he walks up and he goes, hey, he literally uses a name like, hey, did Carla bring the cake by for the party on the second floor? Like, I need to know. And the guy's like, no, there's no cake here. Leave me alone, whatever. So then when a car honks and he rushes out and he goes and, quote, gets a cake and balloons, he's already set the stage. So then when he's standing there yelling at the guy, hey, I can't reach my card. I'm carrying this. I need to get this to the second floor. I can't reach my card. Would you just open the door? And finally the guy's like, yeah. And because he's set that in his mind, in this, security, whatever front desk person's mind, that he does belong there. And he has this purpose and he's already set that stage. So it's a really, this is what I'm talking about with social engineering. This is like a really brilliant sort of analog way to get into places you shouldn't otherwise be able to get into, right? Sometimes it's not about breaking and entering. Sometimes it's about convincing someone you belong and then letting you in. Yeah. It's almost like when we talked about Fletch, how he would keep giving wrong information and people would correct him.
Right, they correct him.
The right information.
Yes.
Same kind of idea. A little more technically advanced, perhaps, the way the Sneakers folks are doing it. But he does that, and then he gets up to the floor he's supposed to get to where Janek's office is, and he's got his lockpick ready to go, and he gets up there, and it's a keypad.
It's a keypad, and they hadn't anticipated this, and it's like before it even started, we're stuck with something that we're not prepared for.
Right.
And this is really, I think, one of the scenes that makes this movie so great, right? So Bishop is standing there looking at the keypad. He's like, shit, it's a keypad, communicating back to the mothership. And they're all kind of talking about how are we going to deal with this, you know?
Right.
And then finally, Kreese, I think, says, okay, Marty, I got something that might work.
Well, this is funny. Mother hands him a manual, hands Kreese a manual, and he goes, my buddy in the Iraq War, or my buddy in Desert Storm handed me this. Of course, he was fighting for the other side. So he's got this like manual of like, you know, I'm ostensibly Taliban, like, or whatever, right? Something. Yeah, you know, like how to bring it. And so, might have this. And then we just see Redford listening to, we're not hearing what Kreese is saying. Marty is just listening, goes, yeah, okay. Yep. All right, yeah. All right, I'll give it a shot. You know, and then he
kicks it open.
Just boots it open.
And it's just, it pays off so well. And
really
I love those jokes that are really like, it's really dragging you up to make sure that the punchline really hits, you know, so they drag that for an extra couple seconds.
There's something very pulp comics about it. It feels very much like a few frames of a comic book you would have read, you know, from like the 70s or 80s. I feel like it feels very much like that kind of payoff.
Yeah.
And a lot of this movie, I think, has that pulpy feel to it. But yeah, it's a great moment. And another example of sort of like analog solutions to digital problems, right? Like where it's like, oh, you've met this technology. You don't know how to get around technologically. Sometimes you just kick the door open.
That's, I guess, a lot of kind of the underlying theme of this movie, if we're analyzing it, is just like, I mean, sometimes it's just people dealing with other people is what gets you what you need.
Absolutely.
So Marty gets in there, kicks the door open, and he's got the black box.
Right.
And fucking piece of cake.
He's ready to go.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And then the doctor from earlier,
Dr.
who was
Rishkoff,
who was you know, having a little fling with Janik in his white suit.
Yeah.
Comes in and sees Marty. He's got to be quick on his feet here.
Right. And of course, Kreese is in his ear. So Kreese and Whistler are in the van and can hear what Marty is saying and hearing what he's hearing from, you know, so they're involved in the conversation. His earpiece, which is not particularly hidden, is quite visible in several scenes, but that's okay. She doesn't notice it. So they start trying to feed him lines about whatever. And it's kind of working, you know, he's sort of convincing her that, you know, he's a private investigator, that Mrs. Janik hired him. She's like, there is no Mrs. Janik. And he's like, oh, like whatever. So they kind of like, they make it work. There's a couple very funny moments. One where Whistler feeds Marty a line that uses pronouns. He's like, well, that's why she's trying to use you to get to her. And he has to quickly format that. Like, that's why she's trying to use me to get to you. And it's like, because he goes from third to second and first person, which is very funny. And then of course at the end, near the end of the conversation, when you know, he's just trying to convince her, like, just be there for Janik, like you need to be there for him, whatever. And Whistler goes and give him head whenever he wants.
Yes.
And he goes to give him hope, give him hope. Because they got to screw with him. They got to screw with Marty somehow.
It was really funny. And again, you know, he was able to play it off at least enough to get out of that room.
Yep, he convinces Rishkoff that this is reality, that he is, you know, whatever, and that she needs to sort of keep it to herself and just be there for Janik, whatever, and away he is able to go. And so we're taken back to the loft.
Party at the loft, great scene.
3 days worth of decorations are up. I'm not sure when they did those Christmas lights, but holy shit.
I guess if you're good at like, you know, wiring things for surveillance, maybe you're really good at Christmas lights.
I guess, but man, there's a lot of Christmas lights in that
all kinds
loft.
of stuff in there. Or I don't know, does Marty Bishop strike you as single version of Marty Bishop strike you as a year-round Christmas light kind of guy?
Could be, but I actually went back to look to see if they were hanging but off earlier, and they were not there in the previous scene. So you might have been right, but not this time.
I just want to say this before I forget about Liz. She is the anti-Joe from Rounders.
Oh,
she is the exact opposite of Joe from Rounders.
Good call.
She's an ex, but she's still cool with his friends. She is down to hang. She's down to talk shop with them. She seems like she is legitimately having fun, even though she was kind of dragged into this whole thing. Like there's a part of this life that she understands why it's exciting, even if it's not for her anymore necessarily.
Well, and again, when you see that, like her life, as far as we're shown, her life outside of Martin and the guys is music. Like that, that's right, what her profession is, everything else. And that again, note, and I'm not being sarcastic, it's very, very tied to mathematics in lots of ways. And then this cryptography and the different surveillance and stuff that the guys do, also very mathematical. There's a lot to share about those worlds, that even if like the details all are obviously very different and very disparate, you know, the core of it is still like, well, you're thinking very logically, you're thinking very pattern recognition and methodical and stuff. And so I think there's you know, a lot of what they do that sort of does excite her from a purely like academic standpoint even.
Yeah.
You know, and it just becomes interesting. But also I think she's just really awesome. And
Yeah.
like it's just, you know, and yeah, some people are just cool and down, and she is and Joe wasn't. It's
Right,
like kind of
right.
like how it goes sometimes.
No, she's great. And in the party scene, she's having a good time.
Yep.
Seems like a heck of a party, playing some Scrabble and everything. They are talking about what they're going to do with the
Right.
money. Because Marty's talked about how much money we're getting.
Yep.
So they all go a little round table what their dreams are for the
Yeah.
money, which is a fun scene to kind of develop each character a little further just by knowing what they would do with like 40 grand or whatever.
I think it was 35. If they splitting it evenly, it's 35 grand
Okay.
each. So it's just, you know, that's a decent amount of money now. That was quite a lot of money in 92. So yeah, Kreese and his wife
could buy a loft in San Francisco. For,
yeah. Like Marty does he even say what he would do? I think he basically just, cause he's getting his record expunged. That's the main thing for him. He gets his life back. But Kreese and his wife talk about going to Europe and Tahiti.
Yeah.
Not just Europe, but, you know, Greece and Scotland and Italy, whatever, and Tahiti. And mother wants a Winnebago with a big kitchen. I think he mentions a few times.
Yeah.
Big, nice kitchen and a water bed. It sounds like a bad idea to have a water bed in a car to me, but you know, whatever. Mother is who he is. So
it's kind of funny if you're like that degree of a conspiracy theorist, but then a very real threat like a waterbed popping in a Winnebago doesn't seem to phase you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're talking about their money, and then they're kind of on the side. Whistler is checking out this new gadget that they'd found.
Yeah, they got this
and
box.
He's testing it. And he's kind of, you know, at his Braille terminal, which I've never really seen before. It's very cool to
Very
look
cool.
at that, right?
I hope that's real.
Yeah,
I've
that's
never.
so neat.
It's the only time I've ever seen it is in this movie, but also I am not blind and don't need to use it. So, but I hope there's something like that. It's very neat.
For sure. And he's there and testing different parts of it, and they're talking about C-Tech Astronomy, the name. They're all kind of tumbling this over in their head, and then Marty fucks up the Scrabble game.
Yeah, he does dump over
Inexcusable. You know, I don't know how to feel about that scene because I don't know what the score was at the time that Marty just dumped all the letters out. Because unless you're one of those psychos who tracks what each letter placement was while you're playing and scoring, then that game is done.
It is done. And he
I
did
have
just
a
try to
feeling
use the word
Kreese's
scrunchy.
wife was winning. That's what I have a feeling. And that she was super cool about not saying anything about it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's funny that nobody even goes, "Hey!" Like nobody even reacts. to
They're
him
probably
just
like,
dumping.
dude, he does this twice a week.
Marty, he put
Never play with a
scrunchy.
cryptography guy.
He put scrunchy down with the Y on a triple letter score. We try to challenge it. He dumps the board over. Like, but so he starts moving the letters. He puts C-Tech Astronomy down. First of all, I want to mention too, just as an aside, in this scene, the side of the loft where Kreese and his wife and Liz and Marty are sitting playing Scrabble, the lighting is incredible and it just looks ridiculously cool. I just thought, but he starts moving the tiles around to try to rearrange C-Tech Astronomy into other things because everybody's been trying to figure out what does C-Tech mean? What does C-Tech mean? This was the name they were given by the quote NSA agents or whatever at one point. And as it's like secret technology, it's like sensor something. Nobody can figure. And he thinks to himself, "Oh, it's not an acronym. It doesn't mean anything. It's an anagram." And so they start playing around, and they come up with a handful of ones where they ask the crowd, like, "Hey, like, what does this mean to you?" And like, "Oh, nothing, whatever." There's at least one that they decide is too sort of juvenile to even mention to the crowd.
Yeah.
But then they end up with too many secrets. And that has meaning to Marty. It's interesting because I think earlier in the flashback to 69 with Cosmo, they talk about no more secrets, or do they say too many secrets? I thought Cosmo said no more secrets, and now I realize I didn't go back and look at that. But anyway, this has meaning to Marty. Too many secrets, and he suddenly is very concerned now about what the box is and what it's doing.
Right, and we're seeing that as Whistler is kind of testing the power of this box, where I guess, you know, a certain point of the box is giving some great encryption power. So if you go to these websites, I think if you type www.federalreserve.com, normally it's encrypted, but if you touch it to this box, then you can like withdraw everyone's money. I think that's how it works.
Essentially, it's not the web, but essentially they're dialing into systems. This is absolutely not how encryption works. You would not see the menu screen just in junk, right? That's
you
just
don't
not
see
how
it in
works.
wingdings.
You wouldn't be allowed in, basically, but it's a movie, so they got to do something. So the all of the special characters sort of, you know, not even in order, just randomly around the screen start turning into the real letters, and they're realizing, oh wow, yeah, we have access to the national power grid, we have access to like air traffic control, access to like the Federal Reserve, like all this stuff. At which point Kreese and Marty realize what they're doing.
Like, dude,
and,
this is scary.
turn
This
it
isn't
off.
like, oh, it's cool that it can do this much.
No.
It's fucking terrifying.
Yes.
And we only have this for another 8 hours, but we're going to stay on lockdown, like with somebody awake guarding us for the rest of the time.
Yeah,
Because we cannot, this is too much.
Kreese says there is not a government on the planet
Yes.
that wouldn't kill all of us to get a hold of that.
Yep.
So they know just how important this is. Also during the scene, I think it was a little earlier in the night, I just want to mention, because at one point in the movie, the supposed NSA guys say to Marty, you know, you'd have to go to prison, and we all know what happened to Cosmo in prison. They don't mention right away what that was, but Marty reveals Cosmo died in prison.
Right.
And so that's an important sort of part to mention, is that, you know, he doesn't want to go to prison because his buddy who had to go died while he was there. So that's that. So they get through the night. Even Liz has to stay, much to her chagrin, although Kreese does convince her.
Pretty cool about it. I mean,
pretty okay.
Kreese was actually cool about it too. He was like, not really apologetic, but he's like, hey, you know how this works.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a veteran of this kind of shit.
Right,
like, you have to
exactly.
listen to me.
Yeah. So they get through the night. It's time to deliver the box. They go to what I believe is Ghirardelli Square. Certainly looked like where they were, the view of the old Bay Bridge, and the fact that they're sitting at these old bistro tables, nobody around. It looked like Ghirardelli Square on the Embarcadero in San Francisco. And he's meeting up with the two guys who hired them. And so Kreese is driven with Marty, and while Marty is talking to the guys and actually has given them the box and is sort of like waiting to get the check from them, Kreese notices a newspaper, today's paper, and it says, famous mathematician killed, Gunther Janik is dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they suspected arson or something. And he's like, really bad, you know? And so then Kreese realizes they're in trouble. Marty's in danger. They're in danger. So apparently Marty's Austin Healey or whatever this vehicle is has a car phone because, so he's Martin, it's a phone call. It's your mother, which obviously must
That's
be
their
a signal
safe
or
word kind of
something.
thing,
Yeah. Because he then turns and leaves without getting the check. And it's like, Kreese, what are you doing? I didn't get the money. He's like, get in the car, drive. And sure enough, those guys were ready to just kill Martin right there in Ghirardelli Square. So it's good that they get away.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we know that, okay, we don't have the item or the money, which is always a good point to be left in a film like this, is we have neither of the things that we need. And now Marty's kind of like, who could have been the fake NSA?
They clearly aren't NSA.
These guys definitely aren't NSA. So I have to figure out who it is. And earlier in the movie, we had a brief introduction to some friend or colleague of Marty's and Liz's. It seemed like that he knew them when they were together.
Yeah, at the Janik talk.
Right.
Yeah, this was somebody that
obviously was Gregor.
Yeah, Gregor something or other. But
some kind of ambassador, like a Russian ambassador.
It's clear that his current title, based on the card he gives Martin, is cultural attaché, which I've only ever heard in one other context. That's in the movie The Birdcage, when it was a deliberately fake name. We'll get to that movie at some point, I'm sure. But it seems like, based on Martin's conversation with Greg, that he's like former KGB or something. Like he's former like intelligence service, something like that. But now he's a cultural attaché.
Right. Just one of those like diplomat guys who bounces around to different positions, but he kind of does generally the same thing no matter what.
It's also interesting because this was a very short-lived title, but his the country essentially for which his business card relates is the Commonwealth of Independent States, which was sort of like immediately post-Soviet Union.
That's
falling.
right. The hockey jerseys from the Olympics. I remember those.
A bunch of the countries that are now all separate countries, like the Czech Republic and Ukraine and everything else, were banded together as just like, we're no longer with Russia, but we also don't really have all of our own structure in place to be completely separate. So we'll just band together for a little while. So, but a very short-lived geopolitical entity, the Commonwealth of Independent States.
I know, it's a weird time, and they in movies of this era, I've seen this with some other things we've seen, they always have to say, hey, our countries are friends now.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, it's like cut forward to 2025.
Fucking
now
Glasnost.
We're back on our bullshit here.
Right.
So he thinks that this guy's probably the most or a very likely candidate for someone that might know who actually took this thing. Like,
that's
who were the fake NSA guys. And in a pretty bold move, Marty shows up to this, orchestra concert that he was invited to by this guy earlier. and it just jams a gun in his back and says, "Hey, I got to go talk to you." And then the guy, after he tells him, he accuses him of what he thinks he's done. The guy's like, "No, it wasn't me."
Yeah.
The guy is so cool about having that gun put in his back, right? He seems like, hey, don't worry about that gun thing. Anyway, let me see how I can put my life at risk to try to help you. And so he's traveling with this guy somewhere unknown to someone that might know, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I think they're just getting in the car and driving around so they can have the conversation that they're trying to have. It's more like, we can't go anywhere that isn't controlled, and my vehicle is controlled and swept for bugs and whatever, because he's looking through files of operatives that
he's pointing at the guy.
Right, where it's like the Soviets would have, so we tried to recruit these guys. Basically, they're people who are Americans, and then he's looking to see, do you recognize any of these people? And at first, it's, no. I do love too, Greg, at one point, his face is completely shrouded in shadow when he tells Marty, "You've got to trust me." And it's just a funny juxtaposition. But yeah, so then they get pulled over. And someone who identifies himself, first of all, Marty does recognize one of the two, the older of the two, quote, NSA guys that basically tried to kill him. The Buddy Wallace, I think, was the name that he used. So he recognized him, like, that is a bad guy, basically. Greg's able to confirm, yeah, that guy's no good. And then he sees who he's working for now, but doesn't say anything, just says, "You're in more danger than you realize.
Yes.
If you stay with me, I can offer you asylum. This car is part of the consulate. Do you want my protection?"
Yeah.
And Marty's like, whoa. What the fuck are you talking about? This is like a big choice, right? To decide to seek asylum essentially in a foreign country. That's like a big decision. You can't just make it. So they get pulled over. A person identifying himself as an FBI agent comes to the window and says, "Martin Bishop, you need to get out of the car." So first of all, sort of like, how the hell did he know he was in that car?
Right.
Interesting thing.
Tinted limo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he goes to get out, and Greg says to him, "You won't know who to trust." They frisk him. They find his gun. Is this loaded? He goes, "Yeah, it is." The guy puts on a glove, takes the gun, and shoots Gregor, and then also shoots his driver as he tries to escape. And so now Marty's gun has been used in 2 murders.
Yes. If you are a limo driver and your passenger gets shot and you're still behind the wheel,
right?
Fucking drive away.
It's the vertical
what
one on the
right.
right.
What is this guy doing? Getting out of the... I've
in
seen
The
Fugitive. I'm going to get... Dude, The Fugitive's not out yet. You haven't seen it.
He's in a tunnel too. It's not like he can dive into the brush off the side of the road. There's nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go. And I will say the accuracy of this guy's shots were incredible. Like there was it was like Gregor one shot, no noise. Man. This guy one shot, that's it.
Yeah.
So now Marty has these murders potentially on his hands. His fingerprints are on the gun. It's going to get back to him.
Yep. And so he is taken to see someone, right? He gets put into the trunk of the vehicle that stopped them, not the one that Greg's laying dead in. And he gets driven around. He gets knocked out by Buddy Wallace, put into the trunk. At one point they stop. He opens the trunk. He knocks him out again.
What are you doing up?
What are you doing up? Smacks him again. But eventually he gets taken to this office, basically, to which I'll point out, much like your very astute observations about scumbags watching boxing on TV, anyone with sharks in a fish tank is a villain.
You know it.
That's a villain.
You know it.
That's a fucking classic James Bond villain, even. So we have a couple of leopard sharks swimming around a fish tank, and the person whose office it is walks up to Marty and says hello and offers, what does he offer? I can't remember now, but he does the hand thing.
Yes. He says, "Is there pain?" And then I think he has a bottle of
Excedrin
or aspirin.
Yeah.
I do want to say too, in this office, some of the least comfortable looking furniture I've ever seen in my life. They have the anti-homeless bench as just their regular bench. And then they have chairs that look like they're made out of those desktop pen organizer, that metal mesh stuff. Yes. It looks terrible.
There was a movement in the early 90s, I feel like, that was some sort of industrial brutalism that was sort of based around sharp lines and angles.
Yeah.
And everything was either metal or glass or black. Right. And I'm glad it didn't last a long time, but yeah.
I don't have good enough posture for that kind of stuff. I can't deal with it.
It would kill my back.
So Marty's presented with this choice and he realizes with the hands out in front of him,
this is Cosmo.
This is Cos.
Oh my God. He's not dead.
He's alive.
He's alive.
Offering me aspirin.
Yeah.
And so Cos kind of has a conversation with Marty, explaining, where he's been. And basically, I went to work for organized crime, but I was kind of leveraged into working for organized crime in exchange for my escape or release from prison. And then he kind of gestures towards, hey, there's a microphone. Like, let's talk quietly. Pulls Marty aside and tells him, my plan is what our plan always was, but on a larger scale. Like, my plan is this whole system is destroying us, and let's blow up the system. And I have these plans, but Marty obviously is skeptical because he's like, well, you've been making money doing
working for the
work
mafia,
for the worst people in the world. So why would I think you're still behind this?
Also, we will learn later in the 90s, you can't plan to destroy the economic system of the United States without also having a fight club. So there's definitely like they're missing that step.
They got to form that.
They got to form the fight club.
Wait, maybe they did, but they're just following that first rule.
Oh, damn, you're right. They're not talking about it. Okay.
So Kaz basically says, here, I pulled up the, whatever the database, the promise software shit where the cops can search your record. And here's Martin Bryce. And I just added Martin Bishop as an alias.
Right.
So now there's a path to you. I hit enter. You're in the system, dog.
Yep.
You're going to get fucked unless you whatever. You're just screwed.
He doesn't even offer him anything.
There's nothing.
It's petty. It's straight pettiness.
This is for you. I was in jail.
Now you get to be in jail.
I didn't like it, and now you get to be in jail.
I went to jail in my 20s. I'm going to send you to jail in your 50s because that's definitely the same thing.
It's the same exact thing. To be like a junior at MIT and go to prison, same loss of potential.
Exactly.
And so right after they threaten him with jail, he's like knocked out. He's back in the car again.
Yeah.
And they throw him out at the top of a hill with a perfect view of Alcatraz.
It's gorgeous.
Just to remind him.
Yep.
Hey, buddy. Oh, you think jail's beautiful? Yeah. Well, look at this beautiful jail.
Yeah, right.
God, it's so beautiful.
This beautiful national landmark that people go to visit and take tours of.
I thought that was great though. So we got some SF there.
Little on the nose, but yeah.
Yeah, so now Martin has been accused of murder, and I think it's like the murder is in the paper.
Yep.
And I don't know if he's named as a suspect yet, but he's like, okay, it's just a matter of time.
There was they say something about an anonymous tip linking the murder of Janik to the murder of Greg.
Okay.
So basically they're trying to frame him for all of the death that has occurred around this box. And his comments, I bet it was anonymous. Like, but now he has to basically convince the team to help him, right? And he has to reveal to them like the whole his background and like whatever. Or maybe the reveal was earlier.
So he has to call the NSA to try to make a deal.
He wants to try to make a deal, and so he calls and Kreese is helping him out. It's like, hey, ask for operations director, ask for whatever, and then finally he just says over the phone to the operator who's looking for an extension. He says, "C-Tech Astronomy."
Yeah,
and that gets the pause, and then the one moment, please. You got it.
I love that. So he's able to get through to an individual at the NSA, and he's telling him what he has, and basically they're saying like, if you don't have and they've set up the call to be untraceable
or at least hard, bouncing
and as
it through
Whistler
satellites.
and Whistler's watching this, and he's like, these guys are really good. These guys are immediately on top of their call,
the NSA.
tracing it through all the locations. I know, like, how do you think you get the technology to make your call untraceable in the first
You think
place?
you're calling Chuck E. Cheese? Like,
Yeah,
this is not
seriously.
but they also have a stress detector set up, which Mother mentions is not as good as a polygraph, but at least gives some indication of whether the person's lying or not on the other end.
Again, classic conspiracy theorist, fully trust polygraph tests.
But so the person says his name is Mr. Abbott, which is true. I don't know why he didn't give a fake name, but whatever. And of course the voice is the recognizable voice of one Mr. James Earl Jones. And he's basically saying, do you have the box? Do you have the box? And they're like, can you guarantee my safety? Do you have the box? And so time is running out. They're tracing this call, but he can't get Abbott to commit to giving his prediction until finally says, okay, fine, I'll guarantee your safety. At which point Mother's little faux polygraph goes wild. Because he's lying, bitch, he's lying, So they shut it off. Looks like just literal milliseconds before they were going to finish the trace. But now they realize if we don't have the box, we're not going to get a deal made.
Yeah.
We have to go get the box. But Martin doesn't know where he was taken.
Yeah.
And this is one of the coolest scenes the entire movie.
This is like such a memorable thing in this movie. And it's just everyone working together. Everyone's like best of, local knowledge and technical knowledge. And
they do make a statement I have a slight qualm with as a Bay Area resident. They say there are 4 bridges in the Bay Area. There are 6 major bridges in the Bay Area, but I'll give it to them because only 4 of them reach the peninsula. So if you're in San Francisco, there are only 4 that you have access to without going way out of your way. The other 2, the Carquinez and the Richmond, or the Carquinez and the San Rafael Bridge, Carquinez Bridge, and Benicia. There's 7, but those are all whatever. I'm going to get too into the geography of the Bay Area. They're fine with their 4. They're trying to figure out where he went from San Francisco to somewhere else.
Yeah.
So they mentioned that the Golden Gate was fogged in. There was no foghorn, not the Golden Gate. Didn't go through a tunnel in the middle, not the Bay Bridge. So now we're down to the Dumbarton and the San Mateo. And I'll forgive Dan Aykroyd for mispronouncing Dumbarton. But they hear the rhythm of the seams in the roadway that he was able to hear. And Whistler's able to recreate it on like his little magic audio box. And it tells him, oh, that's the San Mateo Bridge. It then shows them driving across the San Mateo Bridge, clearly driving east. Across the bridge, from the peninsula across the bridge, and then talking about a reservoir and Crescent Avenue and like all this different stuff that's all in Palo Alto. So, which is on the west side of that bridge. But that's okay. Again, like it gets all messed up. But yeah, so then it's like, what'd you hear next? Rough bumps. Okay, that's railroad crossing.
Yeah.
So find the railroad crossing. And then the best one. What'd you hear next? It sounded like a cocktail party. Like we drove through a cocktail party. There's a lot of chatter. And so everybody's like, okay, we got to find a cocktail party on the other side of the railroad tracks. What? Until Whistler goes, Mother, stay on Crescent. Go to the reservoir.
Yes. Oh, and then it's
so
the
funny.
Collection, all the birds there.
It's like a bunch of geese and ducks.
Great
making a ton of
description
noise.
of that sound, though.
Yes,
I mean, that
absolutely.
it really sounds just like that. Such a cool scene of them figuring out in like an incredible amount of time, like such a short. This is like Liam Neeson in Taken, just being like, I took a small reflection and now I'm already like on my way to this guy.
Exactly.
So they discovered that what are we out here for? There's nothing here. There's only this one building and it's private property, you know. And then they go up to the building and they see it's some kind of a toy company just out in the middle
of toys or whatever.
Nowhere. So they're like, all right, let's get out of here. This is clearly a legitimate toy company surrounded by like helicopter security and stuff. So they decide like this has got to be it.
Yeah.
And then we notice this one office always has the light on. So this has to be Cosmo's office.
Because they're not turning off any of the sensors.
Right. So this is where the thing is being kept. This office next door. Let's find out who's next door to him so we can use that to get in. And then we get to see our man, Mr. 180 IQ himself, Werner Brandis, who is played by Stephen Tobolowsky of Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day fame.
From Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
Like the number of
he's our number one actor we've done so far.
I think it's either him or Benjamin Bratt, but it's like right there.
Yeah.
It might be, I think Stephen Tobolowsky is like the official mascot of Two Dads, One Movie.
I think so, yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, my God. So he's a very... it's such a small role, but he's so perfect as just being, oh my God, this is the fucking guy we have to deal with to try to get this information. And they have a voice recognition access system.
Right.
So what they need to do is send somebody along with him to get enough recording of his voice so that they can recreate this to get into his office.
Yes.
So they're trying to figure out who we're going to send to this.
Right. So they are, basically they have to like investigate him a little bit. They've moved to Liz's apartment. They feel like the loft is dangerous. So she has allowed them, again, super cool, to basically all move in and set up all their equipment, whatever, in her place, which makes it, wild. And then, Mother shows up with bags of garbage and he's like, sorry, Liz, like standard procedure. Got to go through the guy's trash. She's like, oh, thanks for bringing it into my apartment. But as they go through and it's like, the dude's got like no gambling problems. He's got like a $750 limit on his credit card. He pays off every month. He's got like, they're trying to figure out how to get to him.
No access point to like corrupt this guy.
This is right. This is not like an easy mark, like an easily corruptible person. But they do see in his garbage, that he tries to do computer dating. So he must be lonely. Okay, well then maybe we can send a woman. And they start talking about women they know who could do the job, whatever. And Carl, what about your friend Becky? Carl, yeah, she's buff. And Liz points out like, guys, like this guy's not looking for someone who's buff, like or whatever. That means like, this is a meticulous, careful person, who's looking for like a long-term thing. And Mother even says, this is the nicest garbage I've ever seen.
Yeah. And she's like, we need somebody that's anal.
Yeah, right.
And then all the crew turns and looks right at her.
Which is fucked up because she has been so cool.
She's been so cool, but also cool about taking that joke about being anal once again. So Liz has been volunteered then to be the computer match date for Werner Brandis.
Yes. And she has to get him to say the line, not obviously all at once, but all the pieces of so they can piece it back together. Hi, my name is Werner Brandis. My voice is my passport. Verify me. They have to get all those words, which like some of them are really easy, right? His name, hi, name, like whatever. But like verify and passport do seem like fairly complicated words to work into a conversation. But yeah, so she goes on a date with Werner. It's to a Chinese restaurant. She has to now sit through dinner with this guy who is Werner is by all
the worst date.
Oh my God. Terrible date. Horrible conversationalist. Not interesting at all. But she is able to get finally before they have to like leave the restaurant because they're kicking him out. She does get him to finally say passport by just literally asking him straight up.
Yeah.
And he thinks the date's going great because she's obviously so interested. She has to pretend to be so interested to get this that he goes, can I, would you have breakfast with me? And she goes, sure. Shall I phone you or nudge you?
Oh.
So
he
gross.
just like puts it over the top. I know. When she first got there, he said something like, are you ready for the dim sum bar? And she's like, oh no, I'm not ready yet. Let's talk. He was like, okay. And then just like puts his head down and walks straight over.
I'll be right back.
Like,
I gotta go get my dim sum.
Plate up. He's like Ben Affleck in The Accountant without like any of the CIA skills. He's like just socially, really funny though.
Yeah.
So he's like feeling it a little bit, and now she's back at his place, and they just had dim sum, but now they're
so it's the next day.
Okay,
so it's the next day because basically now they've pieced together the audio for Martin to go in and try to steal, but like they have a few different things they got to deal with. They got to get his card,
right,
so that he can use it to get in. They've got the voice thing, and then they needed to raise the temperature of Cosmo's room to 98.6 degrees because he has heat sensors and motion sensors.
Right.
So all these things have to happen. So they had to do some prep time. So right now what's happened is Liz is at Werner's house. Mother goes, and from out the window, she's able to like hand Werner's wallet out. He finds the Playtronics, access card, gives the wallet back. So it like seems like, no, everything's okay. And they're going in there trying the heist now. So Carl has snuck in as a gardener and he's like in the access stuff and raising the temperature in the room. And now Martin can show up after it's like 8:00 at night or something, with Werner's card and with the recording of that phrasing that he needed to say.
Right. Okay.
So that's where we're kind of at.
Okay. I was a little lost on the time in there because I was like, wait, he just hogged down on dim sum. Like he definitely wouldn't be making dinner for them right now.
But this is the bigger example of Werner being a terrible date is the conversation he's having with Liz while Mother is getting the card out of his wallet.
Bottom of a monkey
cage where it's like, oh, you want to know the best diet you should eat? Look at the bottom of a monkey cage. It's all fruits and nuts and it's like, no, dude, that's poop. That's like, what?
Terrible.
And it's just so gross. But anyway, yeah.
It's such a, but he's great at just being a terrible date that just has her like, oh my God, this guy. So when they go, River Phoenix as the gardener, right?
Yeah.
He's got to go in and then sneak around.
Yeah.
During the taping for Fletch, we were talking about Fletch and the other guy being like reasonable, like the same body type.
Oh, right. Yeah,
so they were interchangeable. Yeah. Dan Aykroyd and River. I feel like Dan Aykroyd's like 6'3", 270 pounds.
He's
and
5 inches taller, 100 pounds heavier, 30 years older. like nothing
really
matches
funny.
at all.
They're like, hey, as long as you have the same hat, it's fine. I do also want to say Chevy Chase in many of his films is rocking just like top-notch hats, like the Chicago Bears hat, the Clark Griswold hat. This Niners hat is not a good hat. They could have done a better hat.
No,
I feel
the
like.
A's hat that Mother wears on the original, we discovered the Playtronics thing with that trip. He's wearing a backwards A's cap, which looks dope. It's the classic green and gold bill and everything. But yeah, no, the Niners hat is not a great Niners hat. Although I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure I owned that exact 49ers hat when I was 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah. So Carl is getting the temperature up, like you said. And Marty he's been able to access now Werner Brandis's office.
Yeah.
So he has the recording and stuff. It was kind of a funny gag where he goes to play it, but it plays too fast.
Right.
And so it's like, and then it says, please speak slower, which is really funny.
Which I thought if it was wrong, it was immediately supposed to like get you, right? And it clearly the machine gave it like, oh, you can try again.
Yeah.
You can try again.
Yeah. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with the verify me.
Okay.
I feel like it just says my voice is my passport. verify me. Like, you couldn't get a stronger me out of that. It sounded like it just melded into one, but it worked.
It does
and
work.
it got him in. So Marty's in, and we can see that the log is printing out like who has accessed what room at what time. So it says Warner Brandis, 8:32 p.m., whatever. He's gone into the office.
Room 309, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And he is, so now he has to go up through the ceiling.
Yep.
And into Coz's office.
Right, to drop down. Let's cut real quick. I don't know exactly where in the sequence it happens, but getting back to the date between Werner and Liz, he has shown her this puppy dog toy that he made where he's able to tell it, play dead, and it falls over. And she's like, oh, that's cute. She goes to make a phone call because basically she wants to find out how much longer do I have to stay here, guys. She's going to try to get out of this thing. But while he is telling her where to find the phone. Oh, it's upstairs in the bedroom. Just go upstairs, turn right, and then walk straight ahead. And when he says walk straight ahead, the little dog walks straight ahead, knocking Liz's purse off the table. At which point he sees her wallet has like fallen open, and her ID doesn't have the name because she gave him the name Doris.
I think.
That's right. And her ID says Elizabeth, whatever her name is. And so now he's like, whoa. And now he's thinking, oh, I love the word passport. Oh, I love it. So he goes up and says, hey, Doris, let's go for a drive. Doesn't give away fully that she's in deep shit, but like should have been a bad sign for her because he's going to take her to work because he is confident that she has asked him to say those things and has whatever, all this stuff to get into his office. And I don't know if he's realizes already that he doesn't have his access card or what, but like he might have, I think he maybe figures that out when they get there. But anyway, it's like basically he's bringing her there to confront that there is somebody sneaking into his office. So now Marty has to move less than 2 inches per second. That was what they said about the motion sensors, which, by the way, those sharks are swimming through that tank at more than 2 inches per second. So why aren't they constantly setting that alarm off? But okay. And so he has to move super slow. But now Kreese and Mother realize Werner has shown up with Liz to the office. And so Kreese goes, Marty, you better hurry up.
Yeah.
He's like, the one thing I can't do is hurry. But he makes it all the way over to the desk. He makes it to the box. He's able to take the box out of the briefcase that it's in and slowly walk all the way back to, there's like a dead corner he's able to sort of get out, in and out through. And he has it with him. But now it's like, not only has Werner showed up with Liz, but the security guys, or the guys that were the quote NSA agents that obviously work for Cosmo, they're alerted to like, there's this problem at the front desk. Cosmo himself shows up to like figure out what's going on. Where does he live nearby? Why was he there and not in his office? It was kind of strange, but
yeah, if like a random like G.I. Joe like stormtrooper like had an issue with security, would Cobra Commander come there? Like what? Cosmo's he's gonna pick and choose a little bit. I mean, I know he's a little extra sensitive,
clearly, but he does show up, and so they're just like, basically Werner keeps saying they're trying to break in his office. Someone's trying to break in his office, and he goes, "Let's check his office."
Yeah.
So they go upstairs. He's got a remote control for that the man trap they kept calling it, where the verify me thing has to be said. So they bust their way through there. They go into Werner's office. It seems like moments after Marty has been able to gather all of his gear and get back up into the ceiling so he doesn't, get found. But nothing's missing, nothing's wrong, everything's fine. And it's like, so, they apologize to Liz, say, sorry, ma'am, that, they've been bothering you. And Werner's like, I guess everything's okay. And she slips up, not realizing that she would, by saying, last time I do computer dating.
Right.
And this pings Cosmo alarms
does not buy
right away.
it. A computer match them up. I don't buy it.
I don't think so.
Wait here. Okay. So then this here, Cosmo, it clicks in his head, and I think he immediately realizes that Marty is doing something.
Right.
So if anyone has access to this film and they're watching at home, I implore you, please watch this scene. Cosmo says, Marty. And then he does the silliest run I've ever seen in my life over to his office. I don't understand. I think he just went to like Steven Seagal jogging school or something. Like it's the anti-liquid metal Terminator run. Right. It's the least intimidating run I've ever seen.
Have you ever watched the TV show Schitt's Creek?
Yeah, a little bit.
There's a character, Bob. He has bad cystic acne and owns the garage, and he does what we call the Bob jog every once in a while, where he just does this really silly little jog over places, and that looked like a Bob jog. It really was very similar.
It was a real goofy run. And then he goes in there and he opens the door. Why is it so hot in here? Like,
I mean, 98.6 is hot as hell for indoors.
Very
it's not
hot.
Okay.
So they know that Marty's up, and Marty is up in the vents.
Well, let's not skip one of the best lines Ben Kingsley delivers. Right, he opens up the case, the box is gone. He goes, Marty. He's got extra A's in Marte.
That got him his knighthood. Just
There you
the
go,
delivery
exactly,
of that
right.
line along.
Nothing to do with playing Gandhi.
No. They know that Marty's in the building, and it's just really a matter of time.
Right.
So he's trapped in there. We got the head goon like just firing a shotgun into the acoustic tiles, which I was like,
because he hears Marty's earpiece. So so Mother and Kreese are both talking in Marty's ear, trying to tell him where to go, or maybe it's Whistler, but like two of the people are trying to do this. Carl is also up in the system somewhere because he had to deal with the HVAC. So they're both in the ceiling, and Buddy Wallace comes through a door with his big shotgun and hears the earpiece as I mean, Kreese is screaming into his walkie-talkie, like, "Oh, Marty, and you hear me?" and whatever. So he knows he's there. So he starts doing the like Die Hard shooting up into, you know, as he keeps backing up in the thing and gets to the point where he's gonna blow him away, and Cosmo comes over the loudspeaker and says, "Stop shooting."
Yep.
Marty, listen to me. You know, and he has this whole plea.
I'm your only way out.
Yeah, this
like,
whole plea
I'm not
to
going to
him.
kill you. I can't kill my friend.
I can't kill my friend.
Right. So he comes down. He has no choice.
Yep.
And Bishop comes down and basically, you know, he gives Cosmo what he wants. The other the fake NSA guys still have their guns on him. So we get the good I can't kill my friend. Kill my friend.
Kill my friend. But at that point, Bishop just says, "Okay, Carl. Okay, Carl."
Yep.
Carl, like, at which point River Phoenix flies through the acoustic tile that he's been above them and tackles one of the guys. And then, you know, there's a struggle and they're able to sort of get the guns from these two. And I love this line too, because after all of it, Martin looks at Carl and goes, "What took you so long?" And Carlos goes, "That wasn't easy what I just did." Like, he jumped through the ceiling onto a guy he couldn't see. That was impressive. That was very impressive.
Yeah, that was a good move there. And God, good Carl moment. I mean, his character just having this like youthful energy along with the rest of that crew balanced it out so well.
Yeah.
So then Kreese and Mother are waiting in the truck along with Whistler, and they're waiting to pick them up, and then they get, you know, the security guards pull up on them.
That's right.
But they don't see Whistler in the back. They pull Kreese and Mother out of there, basically.
Not before one of them calls Kreese midnight.
Yes.
Which
we have to the extra racism sprinkler. I swear there was someone that worked at the MPAA who's like, if this white guy is going to get killed, we need to also make him say a racist thing.
We need because Kreese has been so mild mannered, right? We need to piss him off somehow, right?
Yeah.
And so this would be a good way to do it. Reminded me of Back to the Future, where they refer to the band in 1955. Some of the kids use real racial slurs for them as well. It felt out of place just because of like the timing or the time of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously the 90s were not some, you know, fairy tale. There were lots of racist shit happening. But, you know, this clearly bothers Kreese.
Yeah.
So Whistler climbs. So they're now out in front, and the guys are basically holding her, trying to get a hold of the rest of the security team, it seems like, but also just being menacing and threatening them with the guns. Whistler climbs up into the driver's seat and has still got Martin on the radio and goes, "Martin, I'm like, I don't know what to do." He goes, "Whistler, you're going to have to drive." Drive what? Drive the truck. So he talks him through it. It's like, all right, you know, you need to go in reverse. Pull the lever one down, floor it. He blasts through like a gate behind him or something.
Yeah.
But upon the truck moving, that draws the attention of the security guards, at which point Kreese is able to like attack the one with the shotgun and train it on him and deliver the badassest line Sidney Poitier has probably ever said in a movie, when he says, "You motherfuckers mess with me, I'll split your head." And it's like, damn.
I know. He was so like measured the entire time. So it was very satisfying to see him finally get to flip on someone who deserved it very much.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
So yeah, Whistler driving the truck. This is another just fantastic scene here. And it's going back, and he's telling him, "Okay, you're gonna feel a slight bump," and then of course it goes like, you know,
he's going over curbs and
everything.
over like berms.
Oh man,
it's great.
So he ends up getting to the building,
right?
And he's
kind
able
of crashing
to
into it a little bit, but he's okay.
So they're all down the ladder. I don't know why Marty didn't come down the ladder earlier. He was just on the roof for a while.
Well, he was up there to direct Whistler, right? But he still kind of should have probably been coming down sooner.
A little bit of lollygagging.
A little bit.
But it gives enough time for Cosmo to emerge from the roof with a gun to say, "Come on, Marty." Marty already knows. He's like, "Look, you've proven yourself to be a coward. You're
Yeah.
not going to kill me.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You do what you got to do, cause
Yeah.
I'm leaving. Like,
But he makes one last plea.
Yep.
Come on, Marty, me and you, we're going to change the world like we always planned on doing.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And Marty's just like, no, sorry, buddy.
yeah.
I got a girlfriend now. I don't have time for my friends anymore. So they escape, but
Yep.
they have the device
Yes,
now.
they do.
And they are greeted, I think, immediately.
They go back to the loft.
Right.
So, right, because they've been avoiding the loft. They've been at Liz's,
Right.
but they go back to the loft. I think probably just intending to call the NSA back and be like,
Yeah.
hey, we have it now. But they are greeted by, more
NSA is already
armed
there.
agents with guns, a machine gun even one of them has at least, and Mr. Abbott has arrived,
Yes.
right? So James Earl Jones is now on screen. We love seeing James Earl Jones. And basically, the NSA has come and he's like, oh, for the NSA, whatever. And Martin's like, this is interesting, isn't it? That the NSA would be here
Yeah.
on American soil, not the FBI.
Yeah.
This is interesting. And so they're realizing like the NSA needs to keep this quiet. They want this box. They need this box, but they also cannot just, first of all, they're not just going to kill them all and try to cover it up or whatever, but they also don't want any other agencies to find out.
Yeah.
So basically Martin goes into the whole like, well, you're going to start giving us what we want, or you're going to read about it in Newsweek.
Yeah.
And so basically all the stuff that they all talked about, what they would do with the money, they start asking for. Couple of moments I loved in this one. One of them is Kreese is saying, I've never taken my wife to Europe. And James, I'm very sorry for you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're going to buy me first class tickets to Italy and to Greece and to Scotland and to Tahiti. Tahiti is not in Europe. And Carl goes, sir, when you have the box, you can give us geography lessons.
Yes.
But until then, this man goes to Europe, or this man goes to Tahiti.
So good. So good. Yeah. And then, let's see, we had Mother wants his Winnebago, like
yep.
you talked about.
It's just not a car dealership.
And then Whistler wants peace on earth and goodwill towards men.
Yes.
And
To which he says, we're the American government. We
yeah,
don't do that sort of thing.
Such one of the best lines here.
We don't do that sort of thing.
And then Carl, he just wanted the phone number of one of the cute gals who had a machine gun
That's
trained
right.
on him.
Yeah, the agent, the young lady with the Uzi.
Yes.
Is she seeing anyone?
Yes. So that was a great little wrap up for Carl's character there.
Absolutely.
And they all kind of got,
Yeah.
what they wanted, and here's the box.
Yep.
Just to let you know, it doesn't work.
It never works.
It never
yeah.
works.
Right. Yeah.
And then they say, "Oh well,
As long as you
Not
know
your
it never
concern anymore.
happened. This
Yes.
has never been here. This doesn't exist.
we never
Yeah,
saw
okay.
each other."
Right. Exactly. All that. But yeah.
And then I think the last scene that we're shown, now that the crew is safe and everything, they've gotten their demands met, is a news report saying that the Republican National Committee is
They're out of
bankrupt.
money. Yeah. Where did it all go?
They don't understand
Yeah.
it. They had a bunch of money and it's all gone. In other news, there have been big donations to Amnesty International, Greenpeace, and the United Negro College
there
Fund.
you go.
Just
Yeah.
a great way to kind of end because Marty revealed, I still have the chip,
the actual,
the main thing
the
here.
thing that's the most important piece
Yes.
was pulled out of the device. And so clearly he, gets to, it kind of comes full circle. Marty does end up getting to change the world the way he wanted to, the way he and Kaz talked about. It's interesting. I think that thinking about, cause this is where the movie ends, there's no more to it, but it is a little interesting. Like, what does Cosmo do next? He still obviously has power and money and this organization, and he's going to want to keep trying to get the box, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see why he would let Marty alone. It seems like there's probably additional danger for Martin Bishop, but
because there's nothing about it was about clearing Marty's record so he could stay where he is. It's not like I need a new identity. I need you to disappear me.
No,
so
right,
he's still
he just
hanging
gets to
out
be
at the
Martin
same
Bryce
places.
again.
Yeah,
he actually gets to go back to being the name he once was.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if he's just so confident by Cosmo breaking down, unable to kill him, that he's like, "You're not going to do
Such a
anything to
wuss.
me." But yeah, I mean, Cosmo's still out there. We're still wide open for Sneakers too.
we are. I mean, God, I can't even imagine.
we have 70% of the cast still alive. We're ready to do it.
Oh man,
What a fun one.
so good.
What a
So good.
ride. The stakes are incredibly high, but in the moment it's just this guy might get killed. It's not talking a whole lot about the end of the world type scenarios that could happen if this falls into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get too doomsday-ish about that.
No, but it does
But
give us that info. It hints at it
we have
when
the
they're
weight of
doing
that.
it. When they're doing it, and it's like the national power grid and the air traffic control. It's like the amount of absolute chaos, death, and destruction that you could cause if you were able to just shut down the power grid, or even worse, overload it right, which could cause explosions all over the place. It's that's super scary, and so there is this very global level stakes at play, but the movie does such a good job of keeping us in the characters and in their struggles.
Like,
and
it's not a save the world scenario,
No.
even though it is.
It's not a superhero movie,
Right.
Even though it kind of could be a superhero.
Yeah.
They are the Avengers,
Right,
in some
right.
ways. But it's so much more by keeping it small scale. And again, this only works because the acting is so good through the whole cast. They're all so interesting, and every time they get a chance to steal a scene, they do.
Yeah.
And every one of these actors steals a scene at some
Totally.
point completely. And so because of that, the movie stays so small. We can have these high stakes, but it doesn't feel overbearing. The weight of it is like a little lighter, and so it makes a much more enjoyable movie, maybe
Yeah.
more of just like a simple watch. But yet, everything about this movie is really quite fantastic. There's definitely parts of it that, as a Bay Area resident, are a little like, you guys didn't. That's not right. That's wrong. But what
Not
are you gonna
everyone
do?
went to UC though. Yeah. Well, I guess should I rate this one?
Yeah. Why don't
first,
you? Yeah.
then?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So my pick. Very happy that I picked it. I feel like this movie holds up incredibly well. I mean, especially again for something that's so technology focused.
Right.
I think that what they're doing in almost all these cases is understandable, even if that's not the technology we use right now.
Sure.
Like, you could kind of understand, okay, what they're doing. That's cool. And I get why that's advanced, and I get why this is useful and everything.
Right.
I love the gadgets. I love the little references to things. Like I said, this was something where I asked my dad a bunch of questions about stuff, and I learned, about diplomatic immunity and all these things. And like, it was cool to get all that explained through this movie. I like the espionage, and again, the cast is just really unbeatable. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I think there were a couple parts maybe where it was a little slow, but not the fault of the movie, just like the way that this story needs to be told. But I love this. I would watch it again. I had so much fun with it. So I'm giving this 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of right in the same place you're at. We've talked, I mentioned it before, we'll mention it again about perfect movies. This one doesn't tick that box for me. It's not perfect per se, but fantastically fun, incredible cast. We can't say enough about the cast. In fact, we won't ever stop saying enough about the cast. I also am a 4 out of 5. This is a fantastic movie. 8 out of 10 from the two dads. And I think that, again, this is one of those things where you've probably seen Sneakers if you're listening, but if you haven't, this is well worth your time.
It. Really good.
This is, if you missed this one somehow through, your life, and you just didn't catch it when it was out or anytime since, this is one to watch. Fantastic cast, wonderful story. And I think you're right. Nothing about it is so dated that it's hard to follow. They do a good enough job explaining stuff. And frankly, a lot of the technology that's in the movie never really existed in the first place. A lot of it was made up stuff, so it doesn't even have to fit anything in particular. Cool. All right.
Well, what do we have coming up next, Steve? This was mine. What do you have?
So much like this movie had this incredible cast, the movie we're going to watch next does have a very, very good cast, but also just in general, the creative team behind it is like 80s and 90s movie royalty. This is a movie that came out in 1989. It's a movie that is directed by, the greatest director of the era, I assume we can say this, Steven Spielberg. The man had 1 or 2 half misses in his career. Everything else was a total banger. I'm looking at you, AI, artificial intelligence. But Steven Spielberg directed. It's produced by Frank Marshall and George Lucas. The music in it is by John Williams. It stars Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. We're going to watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. In my opinion, the best of the Indiana Jones trilogy. And yes, I said trilogy because I only acknowledge the existence of the first 3 films. This is the best one in my opinion. Very excited to watch it.
Can I give you a quick note on this
Yeah.
one? I have never seen this.
Ludicrous, but hey, I am jealous of you that you'll get to experience it for the first time.
No VCR life really caught up
man.
to me. I've seen the first 2 Indiana Jones probably twice each, maybe 3 times.
Oh wow.
So I'm familiar, but not as ultra familiar. So it'll be interesting to see this as a new viewing for me.
That's fantastic. That's going to be a lot of fun. So next week, folks, we will watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If you would do us the honor, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, head over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. It helps people find the show. If you want to send us an email, which some of you listeners have started sending us emails, which is totally fun. Thank you so much. You can send those emails to the show at twodads1movie.com. That's the number 2 and the number 1. Ask us questions. Let us know what we said right or wrong. Like the fact that I called Robert Patrick Jason Patrick 100 times during the T2 episode, that kind of thing. Go ahead and send that email over to us. This has been another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. This has been the movie Sneakers. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll be back with you next week.
Thanks, everyone.